Several breaking developments tonight in the coronavirus outbreak.
NBA tonight suspending its season until further notice.
It is almost statistically insignificant. People my age, between that bracket of 20 and 29, my age, that are dying from this.
Well, what you're talking about is our 15 days to stop the spread initiative.
I'm going to remind y'all on all forms of my social media. I'm going to continue to remind you guys that at the end of the day, the survival rate for COVID-19 is well over 99%.
I believe that by the time we get to the end of this calendar year, that we will feel comfortable that we do have a safe and effective vaccine.
Check this out. AstraZeneca admits its COVID, amazing, by the way, can cause rare side effect in court documents for the first time. And I'm covering this from the Telegraph. AstraZeneca has admitted for the first time in court documents it has this rare side effect in an apparent about turn that could pave the way for a multi-million-pound legal payout. The pharmaceutical giant is being sued in a class action, over claims that its jab developed with the University of Oxford caused death and serious injury in dozens of cases. Lawyers argue the jab produced a side effect which has had a devastating effect on a small number of families. Small? The first case was lodged last year by Jamie Scott, a father of two who has left with a permanent brain injury after developing a blood clot, which we knew very early on, and so many people denied that was a thing, and a bleed on the brain that has prevented him from working after he received the jab in April of 2021. The hospital called his wife 3 times to tell her that her husband was going to die. Look, man, I say this as a married man. I could not imagine getting some call like that. I could not imagine, obviously over here at the July household, we ain't taking none of that shit. But I could not imagine if I was a little more naive, right? Or as some people do, they believe in their governments. They believe in these supposed experts that I guess they believe that they cannot be influenced by other things outside of my science. But I cannot imagine being coerced into getting some jab, whether it be through financial ruin because of my job or something of that nature. I couldn't have access to X resources unless I got this, or you were coerced or extorted into getting this jab. And I cannot imagine me getting a call from a fucking doctor telling me that my fucking wife is going to die, right? Because of some shit that y'all coerced her to get. When I tell you, that's probably the day that the channel and everything ends, because I'm probably going to do something irrational. Could not imagine that. AstraZeneca is contesting the claims, but has accepted in a legal document submitted by the High Court in February that its COVID jab can, in very rare cases, see, they got to preface it, cause TTS. TTS, which stands for thrombosis with I'm not even about to try to say that, syndrome, causes people to have blood clots and a low blood platelet count. 51 cases have been lodged in the High Court with victims and grieving relatives seeking damages estimated worth up to 100 million euros. Or pounds or whatever the fuck. AstraZeneca's admission made in a legal defense to Mr. Scott's High Court claim follows intense legal wrangling. It could lead to payouts if the drug firm accepts that the jab was cause of serious illness and death in specific legal cases. Long story short, as we've talked about for a very, very long time, this shit did not make sense for so many people to take. It was rushed. And it never made sense. And unfortunately, because of the the fact that science could not be questioned.
But they're really criticizing science because I represent science.
You had a bunch of people just take these fools' word for everything. Everything. They said you had to take it and you had to do it because the guys that you entrust with your life, should you have any sort of injury, have dictated that this is what you must do. Granted, the ones that had the same amount of experience, even more so in a lot of cases, that weren't against it, well, they were told that they were quack doctors and scientists, and the only acceptable position and opinion was the one that came from the states all around the world. And they're criminals, they're band of criminals who deserve to be under the jail like Fauci. Under the prison. Well, they said this is what must happen. And they fear-mongered and they scared a lot of otherwise rational people into doing irrational things. I mean, I was seeing this stuff with y'all remember, man, people that's been following me, y'all remember, I used to go back and forth with these clowns about this. I'm like, bro, I get it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not retarded. And I'm looking at the data that you provided. I'm looking at the data you provided. You said, listen to the experts. I look at the data. I'm not looking at how you, like what you're, just simply what you're telling me. The data you provided said this thing. So it did not make sense for the vast majority of the population to go anywhere near this jab. It was right there for us. You provided. John Ioannidis had a damn bulletin on the WHO that had the survival rate sitting at 99-point-something%. What the what logic was there for a healthy, young human being to take this shit? What was the logic? What was the logic in that? There was none. It never was logical. And unfortunately, I believe that we are going to be suffering the consequences from this for a very long time, because Lord knows what the fuck was in that. And not necessarily what was in it, but more of how it impacts the body long term. They simply didn't know. So we'll see what happens. But if anything, if I can be like kind of a little optimistic about this, let's say this much. I hope to God that you learn from this, especially people that believe basically anything that comes from someone that's from a government or wears a fucking lab coat, that they do have ulterior motives. Often it has nothing to do with health, and they will lie to you. Okay, if it all comes down to it, they will lie to your fucking face, straight up. I mean, we watch these clowns. Now she's no longer with whatever the chick's name was. That was again, it's crazy. None of these people got under the prison, right? They just got away with saying that, hey, this jab prevents transmission, and then turned around and said, well, whoops, we got that wrong. It doesn't. That by itself should have incriminated her, and nothing happened. So if nothing else, I would hope that you would have learned that maybe these fuckers are lying sometimes. Thanks for watching. Right now, the Rippaverse is in the middle of our latest campaign, Yaira #1, which was written by the Saskas. Head over to Rippaverse.com, pre-order, and check out our first live-action trailer and the latest Rippaverse Studios production, Y'all Be Easy.